Greetings, time for a Krackin Canuckleheads. I am Simmer Rob Simpson at the Hockey Cabin. You can see the very elaborate Krackin decoration. My Canucks thing's in storage. I got to pull it out here. I came to the cabin. I don't have everything going yet. We're going to be talking about the Edmonton Oilers today with Jack Michaels. Jackie Michaels, the TV and radio play-by-play voice of the Oilers. High energy. We're going to be talking about a lot of cool stuff. Connor McDavid, the players they lost to an RFA offer sheet to the St. Louis Blues, how pissed off everybody might have been there. Kenny Holland's departure, the insider stuff there, all kinds of cool stuff. Who's in, who's out, and how the Oilers will do as this season gets started, coming off a loss in the Stanley Cup final. We'll also talk about, for Canucks fans, Vasily Podkolzin, how he looks so far, wearing the Edmonton Oilers colors, and their personnel and what's going on with the team in general. By the way, Canucks and the Seattle Kraken, one preseason game remaining for each. Both will be playing the Edmonton Oilers. Wednesday night at Seattle hosting Edmonton. By the way, I apologize to Kraken fans. At one point, I was not really aware of the fact that the Oilers were playing again Friday night against Vancouver. So Connor McDavid will probably play on the Friday night game. Wouldn't expect him probably in Seattle on Wednesday. Maybe, but maybe not. And I think initially I thought that was their last game, and I was thinking he'd be there for sure. But that might not be the case. That's it. One game each in the preseason for both clubs, and then they open the regular season middle of next week. By the way, Canucks fans, Jackie Baby says the Oilers are probably going to win their first Pacific Division title since 1987, and that the Oilers in Vegas could fall somewhere between 105 and 85 points. What? I don't think so. I think it's going to be kind of over here. So they'll be fine. Canucks will be a playoff team. There's no question about that. Will Vegas drop off? Don't know. Not part of the conversation today. All right. Enough setting the table. We will get more into the Canucks and the Kraken preseason wrap and who looked good, who didn't, who's getting shipped out, who's sticking around in the next few days. But right now, let's talk about the Oilers. Oh, one last thing. We'll get into the scores from last night. Not the score. I'm not going to break down the games, but the Kraken lost in OT to Calgary, and the Canucks lost in a shootout to the Edmonton Oilers. Jack Michaels, take it away. All right, there he is. It's Jackie, baby. What's up, Jackie, baby?
How are you, Rob? This is our 25th year of knowing each other.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I was going to say Jack Michaels, the former voice of the Colorado Gold Kings in the WCHL, the Western Cocktail Holiday League, and of course, the Anchorage slash Alaska Aces in the ECHL, which at one point they were also in the West Coast Hockey League. But right now, I can't believe this. You talk about time flies. I asked you about the jersey behind you. There's number 10. And you're like, oh, yeah, the Oilers gave it to me when I got here, as in 2010. I'm like, I thought you were there like 7 years. You're like, 15 years. I'm like,
15
what?
years.
Holy
15
zoop.
years rolling. Yep.
Damn.
Yeah, no, it is. It's hard to believe that time has elapsed that quickly, but here we are. And you know what? I mean, you've been covering pro hockey now for 30 years yourself. So it's, it does zip by.
You know what, dude? I covered my first ever NHL game as a teenager. Red Wings hosting the Vancouver Canucks. That was in 1981.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
You weren't even out of high school then.
No, I was in high school. I was an intern and getting paid under the table. Shh, don't tell the IRS. Already in enough trouble with those guys.
I think the statute of limitations has elapsed by now.
Yeah. Hey, I want to. This is one that's kind of is fun. You know, you lose Dylan Holloway and Broooberg to a RFA offer sheet, St. Louis Blues. How pissed off was everybody?
I don't know how pissed off they were. I think there was a sense that it could happen. The Oilers are pushed up, pretty nestled snug against the cap. So there was always the possibility that could happen. St. Louis was a couple of points out of the playoffs last year, and I think for the first time, really, it became self-evident that the Blues had top end, a lot of NHL players, but for the first time, their depth really suffered under Doug Armstrong. And, Broooberg and Holloway, were they on the Blues last year, might have been enough to get them in the postseason. I mean, that's how tight they were. So St. Louis, made sense, weaken a conference opponent and perhaps get them over the top. I don't think, you're pissed off as much as you are, resigned to the possibility that when you're a contender year in, year out, and you're a cap team, these are some of the, potential pratfalls involved. You become a sitting duck. Teams are aware that you could be had and that you have limited resources, certainly with a Broooberg deal, to expend $4.5 million to a guy with such a small sample size, even if you're only talking about 2 years, because, oh, by the way, you've got Evan Bouchard's contract coming up pretty soon here. I mean, the Oilers are, when you're a contender, and you know this, and certainly you've followed that Central Division forever, this is what happened to Chicago, and Chicago won cups, so it's a little bit easier to take. But when you're a cup contender for 3-4 years, you start running out of cap room.
Yeah, you're pluckable.
Well, plus the cap has stayed basically flat for the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah. So the Oilers have emerged as perennial contenders in a time where there's no room for their salaries to grow up against a cap that's growing. That will happen over the next couple of years. Yeah, well.
I wonder if Army does it if Holland is still the GM. They're old buddies, I wonder if he would.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of speculation about that, and Armstrong was quick to put that to the side. I mean, I guess we'll never know. I mean, he would tell you that he'd put an offer sheet. The old Pete Rose just died, so I'd knock my grandmother down. Well, Bob Gibson was the one, I think, who said that. I'd knock my mother down if she was crowned the plate. And Armstrong basically stopped just short of saying that. Like, forget Ken. If it was my mom, I'd throw an offer sheet out there if I thought it could improve our club and weaken theirs. And, for St. Louis, it makes sense. And for Edmonton, it's obviously, I mean, in a week, they see Broooberg, Holloway, and Ceci depart, while bringing back Podkolzin, Emberson, and Josh Brown. That's, an appreciable shift, and one that has, the Oilers staring at more questions than answers concerning their back end heading into this season.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about one of those guys in particular. By the way, Pete Rose, it was Ray Fosse, the catcher. It was the 71 All-Star game, and Pete Rose plowed him at home plate to win
70.
The game.
You were 6, so I'll let you off the hook, but it was
70 or 71?
70.
All-Star game?
Yes.
Are you sure?
I'm 100% sure.
Tiger Stadium, you're saying it was 70, not 71?
No, it was not Tiger Stadium. It was on artificial surface. I know it wasn't Tiger Stadium. It might have been brand new Riverfront at the time. It was not in Tiger Stadium. Tiger Stadium was the Reggie Jackson moonshot off the tower. But that was not the Ray Fosse game.
Over the light standard.
Yes.
And that's the year Jose Feliciano played the Star Spangled Banner with an acoustic guitar. That was 71 at Tiger Stadium.
Okay. I'll take your credit for that.
At the All-Star game.
Yeah.
By the way, Broooberg and Holloway, both first-round picks, 2019 and 2020. So, and I remember talking to Kenny Holland at the Penticton rookie thing, kids tournament 2 years ago, 2022, right before I got banned by the Canucks. And they basically, he wasn't sure about Holloway. He thought that he wasn't going to develop into what he probably is going to develop into at this point. He didn't really necessarily see him the high end, the ceiling being where it could potentially be. So anyway, that's up to Doug Armstrong now. You also had Desharnais go to the Vancouver Canucks. You had Fogle, he's in Utah. And who else did you lose? One other guy.
Vogel's in L.A.
Vogel's in L.A. Where's McLeod?
McLeod is in Buffalo.
Buffalo, okay. So you talked about some of the replacements. Podkolzin was a Canuck prospect. They purged all their Russians. How did Vasily look this preseason so far?
Well, I mean, I think he's a guy who does some pretty hard work in the corners. And I was impressed today after practice. He stayed after and was tipping pucks, kind of doing the old, Keith, the Matthew Tkachuk drill currently, but Joe Pavelski. I mean, he's a guy who I think understands where he's going to be in the lineup and what he's going to have to do to score goals. And I think when you're playing on a line with Corey Perry, you can steal some of Perry's manuscript, and that is perch yourself in and around the net about 10 feet out and hope to bang in a few. He's put in the extra work. He's not a guy who's you describe as a shrinking violet whatsoever.
No.
He scored a big shorthanded goal the other night to lead a comeback over the Seattle Kraken in a preseason game, as big as I guess a shorthanded goal in the preseason can get. So he's made an impact, and I think he showed enough promise scoring 14 goals as what, a 20-year-old, in an NHL team. I think he's got enough promise. I think the other gamble they got back with the Ryan McLeod deal was Matt Savoy, another first-round pick. He went 8th overall. He's going to start the year in the American Hockey League, but he's got a lot of skill. He's a guy that Edmonton sorely needs to develop, because right now their best prospects down on the farm are on the back end. They have no one really that looks like an absolute stone-cold mortal lock to make an NHL team up front. And, at some point, they drafted Sam O'Reilly with the last pick of the first round this year, but obviously he's 2 or 3 years away from being ready. So Savoy is one of those guys you talked about, some of the players going out, some of the pieces moving in, Podkolzin and Matt Savoy. They're going to need contributions from them. And I know we're going to talk about the back end in a bit. Ty Emberson is a guy that, in a small sample size on a bad hockey club, played some good minutes last year for San Jose. And Rob, I'm telling you, he has a real shot to start the season in the top 4 for a team that reached the Stanley Cup final game 7 last year. Wow. What an opportunity for a second-year pro.
A couple notes on what you were just talking about. Sam O'Reilly, by the way, they sent him back to the London Knights a couple days ago. And Podkolzin, by the way, his issue in Vancouver during showing up from Russia as an 18 or 19-year-old. I think he just turned 23 in June. Just learning the 200-foot game.
Yeah.
Which,
I think he, again, he's backslid last couple of years. I think a change of scenery might be helpful for him. And again, he's not going to be under the same kind of pressure here. Not that there was pressure, but when you score 14 goals in your first year, right, all of a sudden and it happened with Nichushkin in Dallas. Remember, he scored 14 goals as a rookie and then went 91 games without a goal. And then came back and eventually went gangbusters in Colorado before, obviously, the off-ice issues caught up with him. I have to tell you, Rob, and I love you. We've known each other 25 years, but you're a Tigers guy. And I wasn't going to say anything. But Feliciano, that was World Series, buddy. That was 68.
No,
yes, it was.
No,
yes, it was. It was the turning point of the whole World Series.
Dude.
He sang the anthem before Game 5.
What?
Yes. And
dude, we're looking at all this.
Thrown out at the plate in Game 5. The Tigers won Game 5 and then won 6 and 7 back in St. Louis. Just look it up after the show.
Mickey Lolich beat Bob Gibson in Game 7, right?
Correct.
Or was it Denny McLean?
No, it was Mickey Lolich, because Lolich won 3 games in that World Series.
That's right.
And the key play, it was 1-1, I think, in the 8th. And Jim Northrup hit a can of corn that Curt Flood misplayed into a triple. And that was the winner for Detroit.
We're all behind our baseball team. Okay.
Do you remember who caught the final out?
Wasn't Mickey Stanley. It was a foul ball.
Yes.
Down the third baseline.
Yes, but the catcher made the play.
Bill Freehand. There you go. Freehand. He was my neighbor. Bill Freehand lived across the main road from us. So we were here, little main road, and then Bill Freehand, who had a swimming pool shaped like a catcher's mitt.
Did you sneak in and use it without his permission?
Never. Did see it once, though. I went by the way, sometimes the team that loses the Stanley Cup final has a bigger hangover than the team that wins it. Yeah, but we're not concerned about that for the Oilers.
Although Florida turned that on edge last year.
Yeah, but the Oilers sucked at the beginning of the season last year anyway.
Yes.
It took them 6 weeks to get started. 8 weeks to get started?
Yeah. No, it was a while. There was
concern. That
They
it
were
was like
5-12-1 and 10 points out on Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. They were hurt. They shut out the Caps the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and that started an 8-game winning streak that got them back in the mix. Then they lost a couple, and then they won 16 in a row. So really, they won 24 out of 27, and that not only put them back in the race, but reestablished themselves as a cup contender. They obviously want to get off to a better start this year. They'd love to be in a position where you're not expending so much energy in those dog days of the season. But it's hard to cruise in the NHL.
Nope. Yep.
I think Edmonton is in a position to win its first division title since 1987. I don't think the Pacific is that strong. I know Vancouver won it with 109 points last year, and a lot of people think Vegas is going to be, right there in terms of 100-point teams. But I think Vegas and Vancouver are among the teams that could have the widest variance, Rob. They could be 105-point teams, or they could be 85-point teams, in my opinion. In my opinion. I know you're yeah. Well, think about it. Did anything go wrong for Vancouver last year? Anything.
So who sneaks? Yeah, I know their goaltending was number one.
Right. They've got questions with arguably their two most important players, and that is obviously the goaltender Thatcher Demko and Elias Pettersson. Well, yeah, you say that, but he was not good for 20 games to close the regular season, and he didn't do much in the playoffs.
No,
so
that's
it's a
true.
35-game sample size.
Yeah, we've had this. Believe me, I've had this conversation with people, and we'll have more conversations about it. In fact,
he was good in the first 55. He was having a great year. I'm not throwing that out, but when you get into 35 games, that's, for me, longer than just a slump.
I can describe it to you, or you can go back and watch it if you want. But I just had Dave Tomlinson, the Sportsnet color guy for the Canucks, on a few days ago, and I asked him that very question: did we ever figure out what was wrong? And he talked about pressure, like the pressure of the contract, things wore on him, and eventually got into his head.
And that contract's still worth $11.6 million. It didn't change in the offseason.
Yeah, I know. So
and now Vancouver, I'm sorry, its fans are expecting another 109-point year.
I was hoping he was empathizing for me since I was banned and I couldn't go to the game. So he was feeling bad.
Are you still banned? What's your status there?
Yeah, I'm still don't know why. They haven't told me. It's been 2 years. I still don't know why. Hey, by the way, any Stan Bowman thoughts? Like, anything to say about Stan taking over? You got anything for me?
I honestly think
haven't had any chance to really sit down with him.
Yeah, no, not yet. I chatted with him briefly. I've obviously been trying to give him his space. I think he's uniquely qualified to walk into this situation. When he arrived in Chicago, it was also a team loaded for bear, poised to win a cup.
Yep.
And he's got the same challenge he did there. How does he extend that championship window from, say, 3 or 4 years to 6 or 7? That's what he's going to have to do. And, he did it successfully in Chicago. They won 3 cups. And as recently as, I believe, 16-17, they won the Western Conference. And then it kind of fell off a cliff where they were literally, I think, first round swept by Nashville. And they were the top seed in the Western Conference. And the next year they were, double-digit points out of the playoffs. But that was still, a window that he extended from 2010 to 2017. I would suggest this: if he's able to do that again in Edmonton and extend the championship window another 7 years, which would mean a total of 12 in a row playoffs for the Oilers, I think Edmonton will find a way to win a cup in that stretch.
They'll win a cup in there. Win a cup in there.
Yeah.
How old's Connor in 7 years?
In 7 years, Connor's going to be 34.
What you want to do here, Jack, is take his age now, add 7.
34. I had to collect myself for a second.
34.
Yeah. Look,
you'll win a cup. You'll win a cup. I told Kenny 2 years ago? 2 seasons, start of 2 seasons ago, not last season, where I said they were going to win a cup. I thought it was going to happen that year when they added Ekholm. But anyway.
Right. Well, they lost, and they've lost to the eventual champions 3 years in a row now. And people don't realize, Colorado in 22, that wasn't close. That was a 4-game sweep, and I think if they played the series 50 times, Colorado would have won 48.
Yep.
But Vegas, in a 2-2 series, they were up 2-1 late second period. and gave it away in 5 minutes. And that completely, and Vegas was never challenged again. Vegas went on to not only win that game, but win game 6 and then got up big in both the conference final against Dallas and the Stanley Cup final against Florida. So they've had the heartache. You got to keep giving yourself chances. You don't always eventually win it. Just look at San Jose as an example. But in most cases, in the last decade, what have we seen? Long-suffering fans of Washington, St. Louis, Tampa, Vegas, for that matter, finally rewarded. And, I expect the same for Edmonton. You give yourself 8, 9 chances to win it. Generally speaking, you break through.
Yeah. How the Leafs doing?
Well, they're another. Now, here's the thing, though. The Leafs have only been past the first round once.
I know.
The Oilers are one of, I think, 3 teams to be in the final 8 3 years in a row. There's a difference between just making the playoffs and getting dismissed.
I know. I'm just bringing up the Leafs. But
yeah,
Vegas,
you're right.
You're
right. You don't always win it.
Vegas fans wouldn't call them long suffering, by the way. It came in 2017. But you know what, Jackie?
They needed some looks, right?
I think you'll get a ring, but for now, just keep telling yourself that. Okay, buddy? Keep throwing that out in every interview, especially in Alberta. They're going to like you for it.
That they'll giving yourself chances, you'll win it. I do believe it. I mean, it goes across all sports. I mean, the Cowboys back in the day, they needed 6 tries to finally get over the hump. They lost the Ice Bowl. I mean, they lost a bunch of close games. Eventually,
96, right?
They break through and win it.
96, they win it.
The Cowboys?
Yeah.
Yeah, the last year they won the Super Bowl was 95 season, 96 Super Bowl. Correct.
That was the last time?
That was the last time they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay. All right. Everybody go back, check your Detroit Tiger research, your Ray Foster, your Pete Rose, your Jose Feliciano.
I got to help out my older friends. They start jumbling stuff up. Yeah.
Okay. Tiger Stadium, what a place to watch.
You know what? If I'm wrong, I'll come back on the show and personally apologize.
Well, you'll be back on eventually. That's what I was going to say. We'll have an answer to all these intriguing questions when you come back. We've already gone over. So, by the way, when I'm promoting this interview, what should I stimulate everybody with? Should I say
my old pal?
No. Some secret Connor McDavid thing, although we don't have a secret Connor McDavid thing.
No one has that cheat code.
I know. All right, no clickbait. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much. Oh, shit. I'm probably going to see you tomorrow in Seattle. All right.
Perfect. Emily says hello.
Emily says hello. Give her a hug and give Big Louie a hug, too. That bastard hasn't texted me back the last couple of days. He texted me back in July and then hasn't texted me back. Love that man.
Yeah, he's kind of hit and miss sometimes in the summer.
I did some games with him on Sportsnet a few years ago. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, hasta la vista.
Cheers.
Yes, we go back quite a ways. I can't believe Jackie Baby's been in Edmonton for 15 years. It's crazy. Just absolutely crazy. But good for him, and I think they'll get a cup. I really do believe they'll get one in the next, over that time span that he was talking about. I thought they were going to pick one off a couple of years ago, and they came obviously very damn close last year against Florida. We will see you on the next Krackin Canuckleheads. Thanks for checking us out.